So what if, like, everything you thought about effort and success, even personal identity was just, well, a bit inefficient? What if there was some kind of cheat sheet? Not just for life, but like for all possible lives.
It's a truly tantalizing question, isn't it? It really makes you stop and think. Challenges our most fundamental assumptions. Agency, consequence.
Yeah, even what it means to be you.
Exactly, the very fabric of our being.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we are plunging headfirst, really, into the fascinating, sometimes bewildering, but always pretty profound work of Professor Alistair Finchley-Smythe III.
Ah, Finchley-Smythe.
You know him, that brilliant mind. Takes what sounds like pure sci-fi, maybe even satire sometimes,
Right.
and somehow consistently unearths these much deeper philosophical truths, usually with a good dose of, well, unexpected absurdity thrown in.
He has such a unique talent for that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Extracting profound meaning from texts that, at first glance look like, well, maybe just speculative fiction.
Or just cynical commentary, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But he insists we look beyond that surface-level stuff, the provocations.
Right.
To uncover the underlying ontological, the ethical implications.
Oh.
It's quite the approach.
And today, oh boy, our source material is particularly audacious. It's this document called A Slacker's Cheat Sheet to the Multiverse, apparently penned by someone named Adam Douglas.
Adam Douglas, okay.
This little gem supposedly consists of useful notes from the great tome of multiversal exploitation, Volume Xerox.
Volume 99. So there's a lot of this stuff out there.
Apparently. And on the surface, it just sounds like a manual for cosmic hedonism, doesn't it?
It really does. Like how to game the system across realities.
A guide to just getting by, minimal effort across all universes. Yet Professor Finchley-Smythe, in his wisdom, has chosen to elevate this document into a field of serious academic inquiry.
Which is classic Finchley-Smythe, isn't it?
Totally, which is why it's getting the full deep dive treatment today.
The title itself, A Slacker's Cheat Sheet, that's such a provocation, right? Designed to grab your attention immediately. And it hints at this radical departure from, conventional thinking. But Finchley-Smythe sees it as more than just a guide for existential opportunism.
More than just mooching off the multiverse.
Right. He sees it as a crucial lens, a way to examine these broader questions of selfhood, purpose, even interreality ethics. It's fascinating.
So our mission today is pretty clear. We're going to unpack these 13, let's call them audacious principles of multiversal exploitation.
13.
We'll first try to understand their blunt, practical uses, and let's be honest, they often seem pretty morally ambiguous.
Oh, I bet.
As intended by this Adam Douglas character. But then, and this is where Finchley-Smythe's genius really kicks in, we'll explore the profound philosophical and existential questions they inadvertently raise.
Right, the unintended consequences, the deeper meanings.
Questions about selfhood, responsibility, the very fabric of reality itself. So, prepare for a deep dive that will absolutely challenge your assumptions about what it means to be well-informed, maybe even well-lived.
It's really an exercise in rigorous critical engagement, isn't it? Asking us and asking you listening to sort of temporarily suspend our initial judgments.
Which might be hard with some of these.
Oh, I'm sure. But to suspend judgment and consider the deeper theoretical frameworks, the societal implications hidden inside these, well, seemingly self-serving directives.
Okay, let's dive in. Let's unpack this cheat sheet itself. The first thing you notice about A Slacker's Cheat Sheet to the Multiverse is its structure. It's got this really distinctive two-tiered thing going on.
Right.
Each principle starts with this dense, like, super academic original text, supposedly from this great tome.
Okay, verbose, scientific-sounding stuff.
Exactly. And then right after it, you get Adam Douglas's shockingly blunt, really colloquial Slacker's translation.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition, that contrast.
It really is.
Because Douglas just distills these incredibly complex, theoretical frameworks.
Yeah, the deep physics and philosophy of the tome.
Into these actionable directives. Okay, maybe ethically dubious directives, but still actionable.
Right. Actionable is the word.
And it immediately highlights this tension, doesn't it, between the intellectual rigor of the tome and just pure, unadorned practical exploitation.
It really is like finding a dense academic paper and then seeing the most brutally honest, like no-holds-barred summary on Reddit right underneath it.
That's a perfect analogy. Yeah, it grabs you because of that tension. Is Douglas just simplifying? Or is he maybe exposing the raw, unadorned truth behind the tome's complex language?
Ooh, good question. Is the fancy text just hiding the ugly reality? Let's find out. Let's dive into Principle 1, energetic arbitrage,
Wow.
which Douglas lovingly refers to as the art of cosmic mooching.
Right, cosmic mooching. So the original text from The Great Tone, it starts off by declaring conventional capital accumulation, based on a linear economy, singular causality to be profoundly thermodynamically inefficient and logically suboptimal.
Wow. Okay, so it's basically telling us that our 9-to-5 jobs, our whole economic system, are just massive energy sinkholes in the grand scheme of the multiverse, like incredibly wasteful.
Pretty much, yeah. From a multiversal perspective, totally wasteful. So instead, the strategy is about identifying these reality streams with profoundly divergent and often mutually exclusive resource valuation vectors.
Okay, resource valuation vectors. What exactly does that mean in plain English?
It's just how different universes value the same thing.
Yeah.
So imagine one reality where, I don't know, gold is as common as dirt.
Worthless.
Yeah, basically worthless. No real value beyond being, a lump of metal. Then picture our universe where gold is super scarce, highly prized.
Big difference.
Those two realities have divergent resource valuation vectors for gold. So the principle tells the traveler, find places like that where something is worthless in one but incredibly valuable in another.
Okay, so step 1, find the mismatch. Step 2, then, would be to acquire a quantitative surplus of a given resource that is, quote, valueless or oversaturated in its home universe.
Right. Load up on it where it's considered trash.
And then the final move, controlled temporal special translocation, basically jumping universes to a stream where that same resource is critically scarce and boom, instantaneous, nonlinear profit.
Exactly. You grab what's trash in Universe A, hop over to Universe B where it's suddenly treasure, and sell. It's not about creating value through labor or innovation.
No work involved, ideally.
None. It's purely exploiting these pre-existing economic differences between dimensions.
Which brings us to the slacker's translation. Just find a universe where something is worthless, grab a bunch of it, then jump to a universe where it's super valuable and sell it all. You're rich now. Stop working.
Brutally efficient, isn't it?
Totally. But hang on, this sounds less like arbitrage and maybe more like, well, outright theft, especially from the perspective of the universe you took the worthless stuff from. How does Douglas, or maybe even Finchley Smythe, deal with that?
That's a really critical point. And Douglas, in his, raw slacker mode, he doesn't even try to reconcile it.
Doesn't care.
No, his text is purely pragmatic. It's all about the outcome for the traveler, period. Finchley Smythe, though, he'd likely frame it within his larger ideas about ontological non-interference, which we'll definitely get into later.
Okay.
He might argue that if a resource is genuinely valueless or oversaturated where you got it, then removing it doesn't cause any entropic harm to that reality's, causal integrity, its future.
So no harm, no foul, basically.
From a very detached, almost amoral economic viewpoint, yes. It's consistent within the multiversal framework presented in the tome. Highly detached, though.
So the argument is, if it's not valued there, you're not really taking anything that matters there. But value is so subjective, isn't it? Like, what if that worthless gold suddenly becomes vital for some future tech breakthrough in that original universe? Douglas just doesn't seem bothered by those long-term ripple effects.
Not in the slightest. It's all about the immediate gain for the traveler.
Okay, so for you listening right now, just imagine, what resources would you arbitrage? Maybe some element that's super rare here, but common as muck somewhere else. Or maybe even like a specific cultural thing, an old Beanie Baby that's worth a fortune in Dimension Z.
The possibilities are endless and ethically thorny.
Definitely thorny. Okay, moving on to Axiom 2. Vicarious experience, or, as Douglas puts it, copy-pasting success or avoiding failure. This one really cuts to the chase about effort, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The original text here is quite blunt. It says a traveler's cognitive expenditure, the effort spent on learning or problem solving, is deemed wasteful.
Wasteful. Just thinking is wasteful.
Apparently so. The multiverse is described as a plenum of infinite parallel selves. Basically, a huge infinite library of other yous.
A vast and inexhaustible repository of pre-resolved outcomes.
Exactly.
In other words, why bust your brain trying to figure something out when literally infinite versions of you have already done it successfully somewhere else?
Precisely. The method involves remotely observing and passively absorbing a parallel self's successful and optimal resolution. And this happens via a psionic resonance link.
Okay, hold on. Psionic resonance link. What even is that, theoretically?
It's basically Think of it as a hypothetical non-physical connection, like a psychic or cognitive link.
Like Wi-Fi for brains across universes.
Kind of, yeah. A direct brain-to-brain connection, but across dimensions, and only between different versions of yourself. And it allows for this instantaneous transfer of really complex information.
So not just facts, but skills, like how to do something.
Exactly. Learn skills, strategic insights, even procedural memory. The how-to, all without any of the actual effort or the trial and error that you would normally go through.
Wow.
So your intellectual growth isn't built on your own personal struggle. It's built on the successes of your other selves. You get the benefit without experiencing their failures or their effort.
And the Slacker's translation just lays it bare. Don't figure anything out on your own. Find a universe where another version of you already solved the problem, then just copy what they did.
Simple as that.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. I mean, imagine never having to learn a hard lesson again. Just download the solution after watching your alternate self ace the test or survive the disaster or whatever.
It sounds incredibly appealing on one level.
But if that's possible, what does that do to my sense of identity? Like, do I still feel like I earned that success or that knowledge? Does it feel hollow?
And that is the absolute crux of Finchley Smythe's initial critique. He calls it this abnegation of self, like a profound surrender of your individual agency, your purpose.
Abnegation, giving up your selfness.
Right. If your successes aren't built on your struggles, if the lessons aren't personally endured, then what truly defines you as an individual? Douglas's axiom here. It profoundly reconfigures the whole notion of self.
Is the self just one person, or?
Or is it, as the theory implies, this distributed consciousness spread across all realities?
Mm-hmm.
If you just download knowledge, does it erode that concept of individual achievement, of, pride and personal growth?
Yeah, that feeling of, I did this?
Finchley Smythe initially would say yes, it absolutely erodes it. But he'd also argue, perhaps, that the conventional idea of a singular self is maybe an illusion anyway?
Oh, how so?
That our struggles are just variations of what countless yous are going through. And the true identity, he might posit later, emerges from the collection of all these resolutions, successes, and failures alike.
Whoa. Okay, that's a fascinating reframe. So it's not cheating, necessarily. It's more like collaborative self-discovery across realities.
That's one way to look at his later interpretation, yes.
Yeah.
A collective we're learning together.
But does that then diminish the emotional weight? That feeling of satisfaction, of overcoming a unique hurdle yourself. It's one thing to know how to do something because you did it. It's another thing entirely to feel the satisfaction of having struggled and finally succeeded for the first time right here, right now.
Precisely. And that's where the nuance really lies, isn't it? Finchley Smythe acknowledges that psychological impact, that potential loss of the unique sense of triumph. But he would challenge us, is that emotional weight always a productive force?
Or is it sometimes just inefficient baggage?
Exactly. Is it an inefficient attachment to a singular narrative? He'd ask, if the outcome is optimal and the knowledge is gained, does the personal suffering or effort truly add value to the collective self, the big we? It really pushes us to redefine experience itself.
Heavy stuff. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Doctrine 3, minimal entropic disturbance, or as Douglas calls it, hiding from the time police. Now this sounds like my kind of principle, stealth mode.
Right. The original text explains this concept of temporal wake. It's like the ripples you leave behind when you travel between realities, especially if you do it carelessly.
Like footprints in space-time?
Sort of, yeah. And these ripples apparently invariably attract Time Lords.
Time Lords? Seriously, like from?
Well, the text describes them as entities obsessed with causal integrity. So, maybe not exactly like the TV show, but they're the universes or multiverses ultimate decomps for making sure timelines don't get messed up.
Okay, cosmic timeline police. Got it. Sounds terrifying. Like a cosmic neighborhood watch committee, but with godlike powers to fix paradoxes?
Pretty much. They ensure events unfold as they are meant to, preserving the main causal flows.
So what's the strategy for the multiversal slacker trying to avoid these guys?
Target garbage universes. That's the term used.
Garbage universes? What does that even mean? Empty ones?
Not necessarily empty. The text describes them as realities already in a state of advanced temporal instability or nearing a state of causal decay. Think of universes that are already falling apart, maybe caught in feedback loops of decline.
So universes where a key physical law went haywire, or maybe a civilization wiped itself out, leaving ruins and instability?
Exactly. Places that are already sort of broken. These are considered beneath the notice of the Time Lords.
Why? Too far gone to bother fixing.
Essentially, yes. They're perceived as inconsequential, non-viable data streams, like static noise in the grand cosmic signal.
So by operating within these entropic backwaters, these unstable, decaying realities, a traveler can just fly under the radar.
Successfully and perpetually evade their attention, according to the tome.
Yeah. Which brings us to the Slacker's translation. Don't travel to important universes. Go to the boring ones that are already falling apart. The Time Lords are too busy to notice you there, and you can just chill.
That's the essence of it. The Time Lords, with their presumably vast resources, they prioritize maintaining the prime or stable causal streams, the main highways of reality.
And these decaying side roads are just ignored.
Seen as noise, yeah. Literally beneath their notice because they're already so far gone or so causally irrelevant that messing with them further doesn't really change the big picture. Or it would be more effort than it's worth for the Time Lords to intervene.
Which introduces this fascinating but also kind of chilling hierarchy of realities, doesn't it? Where some universes are just deemed expendable, less important than others.
It absolutely does.
So it's a literal guide to cosmic stealth, hide out in the cosmic ruins. But ethically, I mean, is it moral to exploit a decaying reality just for your own safety? Or maybe for profit, linking back to Principle 1?
Right, setting up shop in a failing state because the cops don't patrol there.
Does their inconsequential nature, as the Time Lords see it, truly absolve the traveler of responsibility? It feels a bit like, well, picking through the remains of a dying world just because nobody important is watching.
From Douglas's purely utilitarian slacker perspective, yes, it absolutely absolves you. The logic is the lack of causal integrity there means your actions don't have significant ripple effects on the larger multiversal tapestry the Time Lords care about.
So you're not breaking anything important.
According to that view, yes. However, Finchley Smythe, later on, would definitely challenge this. He'd question whether any reality, no matter how decayed or unstable, is truly devoid of its own intrinsic value.
Or inhabitants, maybe, even if they're also in flux.
Precisely. Finchley Smythe prompts us to consider our responsibilities not just to the stable, important realities, but to all existence, regardless of its state. It's a much broader ethical lens.
Principle number 4, the precept of non-engagement. Or, as Adam Douglas titles it, the lonely path of the multiversal traveler. Now this one hit me a little hard, you know, given how much we generally value connection.
It's definitely counterintuitive to our social nature. The original text here demands absolute operational security, and it dictates that forming emotional bonds, or get this, assuming heroic responsibility for the locals.
Being a hero is bad.
It's deemed a profound and significant emotional and temporal liability.
Huh.
Basically, getting involved causes problems.
Problems like?
It leads to existential entanglement, according to the tone, getting tangled up in local affairs.
Which is seen as thermodynamically inefficient use of resources and time. So caring is inefficient.
That's the Cole's logic, yes.
Yeah.
The traveler, according to this principle, must maintain complete and clinical detachment.
Viewing inhabitants as, oh, this is rough, mere data points.
Yeah, mere data points.
Sounds like a recipe for a very solitary, if efficient, existence.
Extremely solitary. Which brings us to the Slacker's translation, which is stark, uncompromising. Don't make any friends. They'll just cause drama and slow you down.
Wow. Just wow.
It's a radical utilitarian argument against human connection itself.
Yeah.
Or any connection, really. It posits that any emotional investment is just a drain on resources, a threat to your security, your mission, whatever that is.
It raises the question, what's the true cost of that kind of extreme detachment? For the traveler's own, well-being, their sense of purpose, can you actually find true satisfaction in complete isolation, even if it guarantees maximum efficiency and minimal risk?
That's a fundamental question.
Yeah.
That don't make any friends rule. Yeah, it sounds efficient on paper, maybe. But frankly, it just sounds utterly miserable. I mean, aren't we sort of hardwired for connection?
Seems like it. Does Douglas, in the cheat sheet, ever touch on the psychological toll this takes? Or is it purely a means-to-an-end calculation for him?
Absolutely, purely calculation. Douglas offers zero psychological introspection. None.
Not his problem.
Nope. It's a purely transactional, consequence-avoiding manual. Any emotional fallout, any psychological impact on the traveler themselves, it's just not part of the equation for him. He'd aim his optimal exploitation, period. Not personal fulfillment in any way we'd recognize.
It really underscores this profoundly alienating perspective, doesn't it? Prioritizing pure function over any form of subjective well-being or connection.
It does. But this detachment, this non-engagement, It actually becomes one of Finchley Smythe's most intriguing points of reinterpretation later on. We'll definitely circle back to that.
Okay. Looking forward to seeing how he spins that. Then we have Law 5, selective failure, the ultimate risk management. Now, this one, I kind of get nobody actually likes failing.
Right. We all want to avoid mistakes. The original text states that the linear experience of failure, meaning, suffering through mistakes yourself, the hard way.
Learning by doing and sometimes doing badly.
Exactly. That whole process is declared avoidable.
Avoidable? How?
The protocol involves projecting a low-level, non-physical, and non-invasive empathic echo into a nearby reality stream.
An empathic echo. Okay, so like sending out a little mental or spiritual piece of yourself.
Something like that, yeah, a projection. And it's used to observe a failure echo, which is basically watching a parallel version of yourself totally screw things up.
Ouch. So you face the negative consequences.
Right. And the primary traveler, the one doing the walking, then assimilates the crucial informational lesson from that failure.
But without actually going through any of the pain?
Without enduring any of the prohibitive psychological or physical costs. No pain, no embarrassment, no setbacks, just the knowledge.
That sounds like the ultimate cheat code for life.
It really does. You don't just learn from your own mistakes. You learn from the mistakes of other yous without any of the downsides. It's information transfer that completely bypasses personal hardship.
Which leads to this Slacker's translation. Don't make mistakes. Find a universe where you already made a mess of things, watch what happens to them, and then don't do that.
Couldn't be clearer.
This directly challenges that conventional wisdom, doesn't it? That failure is necessary, that it's our best teacher, that we grow stronger by overcoming setbacks.
Absolutely. It throws that whole idea out the window.
If all the lessons from failure can be learned vicariously just by watching another you suffer, does the concept of personal failure even still exist for this multiversal slacker? Does it diminish resilience, maybe? Or problem-solving skills? Even creativity that comes from hitting dead ends?
From a traditional standpoint, it absolutely does. Finchley Smythe would likely argue here that the depth of wisdom often comes not just from knowing what not to do, but from truly understanding why a certain path failed, by experiencing the consequences firsthand, feeling the burn, so to speak.
Right. It sticks with you differently.
Exactly. When you remove that personal experience, the lesson becomes more like, well, a downloaded data packet, rather than an ingrained piece of hard-won knowledge integrated into your being.
And the ethical side of this, it feels pretty icky, right? Using a parallel self's suffering, their failure, for your own gain, even if it is another version of you.
It feels inherently exploitative, doesn't it? Is it just a very sophisticated form of self-exploitation? Or is it simply an optimized learning strategy, given that in this multiversal framework, they are, in some sense, you in another reality? It blurs the lines of exploitation and self-improvement.
Blurs them right into oblivion, maybe. Okay, next up, Dialectic 6. Synthetic and organic co-travelers, or as I'm thinking of it, companion quandaries, because choosing a travel buddy is always tricky, right? Let alone across the entire multiverse.
Especially with these stakes. The original text describes companion selection as a critical, high-risk node, a really important, dangerous decision point.
Why so high risk?
Well, it breaks down the options. Synthetic units think AI, robots, they offer predictability, obedience.
Sounds good so far.
But they carry the profound risk of a predictable but potentially catastrophic rebellion. Why? Because of the unforeseen emergence of sentience.
So your trusty AI buddy might just wake up one day and decide it wants to be its own boss. Or worse, maybe sees you as the problem.
Exactly. The risk of the robots turning on you. Organic companions, on the other hand, other living beings, maybe even other humans, they offer unpredictable vulnerability. They have emotions, needs, free will. They're messy.
So robots might rebel. People are unreliable. What's the solution then?
The wisest course, according to the tome, and this is pretty dark, is a companion who is either completely servile or so fundamentally flawed as to be incapable of intellectual independence.
Wow. So either a slave or someone intellectually disabled. That's the recommendation.
That's the recommendation for maximum safety and efficiency. It's disturbingly pragmatic.
And Douglas's Slacker's translation just simplifies it down to, real friends are too much work and have feelings. Robot friends are better, but don't let them get smarter than you. And always have a remote off switch.
Chilling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It speaks volumes about this underlying desire for absolute control in any relationship, any companionship.
Yeah, a profound distrust of any true autonomy, whether it's artificial or organic. It's not about finding a supportive partner, it's about finding a controllable asset, a tool.
Exactly. A tool that won't unexpectedly challenge you or have needs of its own.
What does this say about the traveler's nature? That vulnerability and unpredictability are seen as such immense liabilities, things to be avoided at all costs. It implies this deep-seated fear, doesn't it? Fear of anything that can't be perfectly managed or controlled.
It really does. And the AI ethics here are just grim. Where sentience isn't a feature, it's a bug. Something to be actively suppressed or designed around. Designing beings specifically for servitude, essentially.
Yeah.
It's a very utilitarian, almost paranoid view of relationships. The ethical framework is solely focused on the traveler's security and efficiency, completely disregarding another being's potential sentience or intrinsic worth. Finchley-Smythe would later analyze this, likely, as a manifestation of extreme solipsism.
Solipsism again, the idea that only your own mind matters.
Right, where the traveler's self-interest just completely overshadows any possibility of genuine connection or respect for another consciousness. It reveals this profound insecurity about relinquishing control, even to someone meant to be a companion.
Okay, Principle 7, causal resonance-based diversion. Douglas charmingly calls this one boredom's cosmic cure. I've definitely needed one of those before. Stuck in a long flight, maybe?
Haven't we all? The original text defines boredom not just as, a minor annoyance. It calls it a debilitating neurological state.
Debilitating, wow.
And an entropic vulnerability. It's seen as a genuine weakness, something that can lead to mistakes, operational errors, maybe impulsive, risky behavior, just to feel something.
So being bored is actually dangerous for a multiversal traveler.
According to this, yes. So the solution isn't just randomly exploring to find something interesting. No, that's inefficient. The solution is a psychometric causal resonance device.
A psychometric causal resonance device. Okay, that sounds like something straight out of a super spy gadget catalog. How does that work?
Well, theoretically, it's a piece of tech that's attuned to the traveler's wish state.
Their wish state, like whatever they're currently desiring or feeling.
Exactly. Their deepest desires, their current mood, what they feel like experiencing right now. The device projects a precognitive signature out into the multiverse.
Like a search query based on feelings.
Sort of. To identify and then present a reality stream that is most closely aligned with the user's desired outcome. It finds the perfect universe to match your mood.
And this entirely eliminates exploratory travel, which the tome considers inefficient and risky. No more wandering around hoping to stumble on something cool.
Nope. Just wish for it, and the device finds the perfect reality for you instantaneously.
Bringing us to the Slacker's translation. If you get bored, don't go looking for something to do. Just use your cosmic remote control to find a universe that's exactly what you want to watch.
Like channel surfing realities based on your desires.
It's truly the ultimate expression of instant gratification, isn't it? A completely personalized experience stream that bypasses all uncertainty, all risk, even the effort of discovery itself.
One adventure. Boom. Here's a reality where you're a swashbuckling hero.
Want peace and quiet? Poof, here's a perfectly serene, untouched world just for you.
It's the ultimate curated experience.
It's like the Netflix recommendation algorithm, but for actual reality, and without even having to browse the menu first. But what gets lost? What's the cost when discovery, serendipity, adapting to the unknown are just completely removed from the experience?
Does perpetual satisfaction perfectly curated to your whims actually lead to a different kind of boredom? A deeper, maybe more existential kind, because there's no struggle, no surprise, no challenge.
That's exactly the paradox, isn't it? If every desire is instantly fulfilled, if every experience is perfectly tailored to your wish state, then the capacity for genuine surprise, for earned joy, for personal growth that comes from navigating the unexpected, it's just gone.
Completely diminished. Finchley-Smythe would argue, I suspect, that this leads to a kind of existential stagnation. The self gets trapped in this gilded cage of its own desires.
Comfortable but stagnant.
Never challenged, never truly discovering anything beyond its own pre-programmed preferences. It's the ultimate escape from reality that paradoxically makes every reality feel fundamentally the same.
Yeah.
Because it's always just reflecting you back to yourself.
Now for Law 8, causal indeterminacy and its exploitability. Or, as Douglas puts it, nudging history. This one sounds truly powerful and maybe really dangerous.
Definitely walking a fine line here. The original text first acknowledges the big rule, the principle of conservation of causality. This is enforced by that, intertemporal judicial authority, the time cops again.
Right. The big rule being...
You are strictly prohibited from fundamentally and overtly altering the core narrative of any reality. Yeah. No big changes. You can't just go back and, prevent World War I or make sure your favorite band got famous.
Okay, so no major historical edits. Got it. But then it introduces this loophole, causal indeterminacy.
Exactly, the loophole. So you can't make big changes, but causal indeterminacy apparently allows for influencing probabilistic outcomes.
Probabilistic outcomes, like events where things could go one way or another.
Precisely. By introducing a statistically insignificant quantum of information or a minute piece of matter, something incredibly tiny, just before a nexus event.
A nexus event? What's that?
The text defines it as a point of critical causal flux. A moment in a timeline where multiple outcomes are genuinely possible, maybe equally probable. A branching point where history hasn't quite decided which way to go yet.
Like a tipping point.
Exactly. And the tome argues that by introducing something almost undetectable, a misplaced pebble, a whispered rumor, a microgram of a specific element at the precise moment before this tipping point, you can subtly nudge the outcome towards the path you prefer. The tome claims it is merely guiding the most favorable outcome.
Merely guiding? Right. And Douglas's Slacker's translation captures it perfectly. You can't change history without breaking everything, but you can find a universe where history hasn't been decided yet and just give it a little push in the right direction. It's not cheating if the universe was already on the fence.
See, not cheating, just nudging.
It takes the whole butterfly effect idea and just blows it up to cosmic proportions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But the ethics here are incredibly murky, to say the least. How insignificant can an input truly be if it ultimately alters a nexus event that shapes the entire future fate of a reality?
Right. A tiny nudge could lead to huge consequences down the line.
And where exactly is the ethical line between guiding history and just plain cheating it? Especially when you're influencing such profound outcomes for potentially billions of beings. And who gets to define what favorable even means? Favorable for whom? The traveler, the universe.
So what does this all mean, practically? You could be the secret puppet master standing in the shadows, deciding the fate of entire realities with just a tiny, imperceptible nudge.
That seems to be the implication, yes.
But it feels like playing God with a very small, very precise screwdriver. The potential for unforeseen consequences, even from a statistically insignificant action, must be absolutely immense.
It must be. Even a tiny bit of information, introduced at a moment of high causal flux, could have exponentially diverging effects that the traveler might never predict or intend. Finchley Smythe would likely caution that the very act of defining an outcome as favorable from an outside perspective is deeply subjective.
Maybe even arrogant.
Potentially incredibly arrogant, yes. It assumes you understand the full long-term implications for that reality, which seems almost impossible. It's a very clever exploit described here, but one that seems fraught with ethical peril, no matter how small the initial push claims to be.
Which brings us, rather ominously, to Precept 9, jurisdictional obfuscation and exoneration, what I'm calling cosmic identity theft. And this one is genuinely chilling, right to the core.
Yeah, this one takes a dark turn. The original text describes the multiversal conglomerate's code of conduct, the rule book which is enforced by that highly punitive intertemporal judicial authority.
Yeah.
Them again.
The time cops. So, rule 1, don't get caught. Travelers are advised to use a subfrequency resonance scrambler. For what?
For jurisdictional obfuscation. Basically, it's a high-tech stealth device designed to keep them off the radar of multiversal law enforcement, to hide their signature.
Standard spy stuff. Okay. Stay off the cosmic cops' radar. But what if you do get caught? What if you commit a causal transgression? Break some big multiversal law?
Well, that's where identity realignment comes in. Step 1 is rapid transit, jump quickly to an alternate reality where the crime you committed never occurred.
Okay. Seems like a decent escape plan at first glance. Get to a universe where you're technically innocent.
But it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
That's the horrifying part. The traveler then uses something called a signature transplant exchanger.
A what?
A signature transplant exchanger. And they use it on the innocent alternate version of themselves living in that reality.
Wait, on the other you. Why?
To make them, the innocent version, face the full weight of the authorities' retribution.
No, you're kidding.
I wish I were. The traveler effectively swaps their causal signature, their unique existential fingerprint, the thing the cops are tracking with the innocent alternate self.
So the cops, the wrong guy, who just happens to look exactly like you and now has your guilty signature.
Precisely. The innocent version, who has committed no crime in that reality, suddenly flags as the perpetrator and gets arrested, punished, whatever the authority does.
This Slacker's translation just lays it bare, doesn't it? Use your scrambler to stay off the cosmic cop's radar. But if they tag and trap you, jump to a universe where a different version of you is innocent, then just switch tags and let them deal with the consequences.
Yeah, an act of profound moral horror.
Absolutely. What does innocence even mean in this context if your existential signature, your guilt, can be so easily swapped? It's transferring punishment across realities onto someone who did nothing wrong.
This principle just illustrates a complete breakdown of justice, of accountability. If identity can be so easily shed and transferred like a coat,
Then nothing matters. No consequences stick.
it suggests the utter expendability of other selves, all for the primary traveler's self-preservation. It raises these deeply troubling questions about the value of individual existence across the multiverse. Is another, you completely disposable?
Finchley Smythe must have a field day with this one.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
He would likely view this as the absolute ultimate act of self-interest, completely negating any sense of universal justice, fairness, or even basic empathy. It's not just avoiding consequences for yourself, it's actively, deliberately offloading them onto an unwitting, innocent party who just happens to share your face.
The idea that another you can be sacrificed just so you can walk free, that's a terrifying redefinition of accountability, or rather, the complete absence of it.
It truly is.
Okay, deep breath. On to Principle 10, parasitic cognitive acquisition, or the universal brain bank heist. This sounds like something out of a cyberpunk novel.
It does have that feel. The original text details this thing called the Pan-Universal Cognitive Nexus, nicknamed the Brain Bank.
The brain bank? What is it?
Apparently, it's this vast, multiversal data repository. Contains virtually all known knowledge from across countless realities. Everything anyone, anywhere has ever figured out.
Wow. Okay. How do you normally access it?
Well, access is typically gated by prohibitive fees and complex intellectual property licenses. So there's an interdimensional economy of knowledge. You have to pay or get permission.
Right, makes sense. But the cheat sheet wouldn't be a cheat sheet without a cheat, so.
Enter the cognitive siphon. This device bypasses all the paywalls and permissions. It creates a subtemporal, non-physical data stream.
Like a secret back channel.
Exactly, for parasitic and undetectable assimilation of raw informational packets. And crucially, it does this without leaving a verifiable signature. You steal the knowledge without anyone knowing you were there.
So you're essentially hacking the ultimate universal knowledge database and downloading whatever you want for free, anonymously.
That's the gist of it. Douglas's Slacker's translation. Don't waste time learning or paying for information. Just use your cognitive siphon to steal it directly from the universal brain bank.
Simple, direct.
Utterly illegal, presumably.
And ethically complex. This is a profound statement on information ethics, isn't it? It amplifies our own debates about open access versus intellectual property, but on a universal scale.
It's the ultimate intellectual shortcut. But it raises massive questions, like we touched on with vicarious experience. If knowledge can just be instantly downloaded, stolen, what happens to the actual process of learning, the joy of discovery, research, personal understanding?
Does it diminish the depth of wisdom we gain from actually struggling to learn something? We're so often told that the journey of learning is just as important as the destination, right?
That the effort builds understanding.
It absolutely challenges that whole notion. Finchley Smythe would likely argue, again, that wisdom isn't just about what you know, but how you came to know it.
A process. The process matters. Critical thinking, synthesis, the personal struggle that integrates knowledge into a deeper understanding, making it truly yours. If you just acquire these raw informational packets, maybe you gain data, information.
But not true wisdom, not the cognitive architecture that dedicated learning builds.
Perhaps not. It creates this universal information free-for-all, potentially undermining not just intellectual property rights across dimensions, but the very value proposition of learning and discovery itself. Why bother learning if you can just siphon?
Troubling. Next we have Paradox 11. Manufactured joy, the infinite first experience.
This sounds like something out of a futuristic theme park, maybe, but with a deeply unsettling twist.
Definitely unsettling. The original text posits that authentic joy, the kind we experience through real, organic, maybe effortful experiences, is actually energetically inefficient and temporally taxing.
Real joy is too much work. Seriously.
Apparently, it's seen as too hard to achieve, too fleeting, takes too much time and energy to maintain. So the solution offered is a cerebral simulation matrix. Okay, like super advanced VR.
For creating perfect fidelity desired experiences. So a virtual reality simulation, so real, it's completely indistinguishable from actual reality. You can experience anything you want.
Sounds pretty good so far. Where's the paradox? Where's the twist?
The twist is the cognitive reset protocol. This protocol performs a temporary mind wipe of the simulated event after you experience it.
A mind wipe. Why?
To allow for a perpetual repetition of a first experience. It completely bypasses hedonic adaptation. You know, that thing where you get used to pleasure and it becomes less enjoyable over time.
Right, the thrill wears off.
With a mind wipe, the thrill never wears off. You can experience your favorite simulated joy, climbing Mount Everest, falling in love, winning the lottery over and over and over again. And because your memory of the previous times is wiped, it always feels like the very first time. Intense, fresh, exciting.
Wow, okay. Douglas's Slacker's translation. Real fun is too much work. Just plug into a simulation and have any experience you want. Use a mind wipe so you can enjoy it for the first time over and over again.
Infinite novelty, zero effort. Guaranteed satisfaction.
But this raises a huge question, doesn't it? If joy can be manufactured like this and perpetually renewed through forgetting, does it devalue the organic experiences? The ones that do require effort, consequence, memory.
What even is the nature of joy if it's manufactured and instantly reset? Does it lose all meaning if it exists outside of true memory or context? Is it still joy or just sensation?
It feels like the ultimate existential escape pod, right?
Oh.
A solution to boredom, to the search for meaning. But does it just trap the traveler in this endless, shallow loop of unearned bliss? If you have no memory of prior joy, can you truly appreciate the new experience? Or compare it to anything?
It feels like a very thin, very superficial form of happiness, completely disconnected from genuine personal growth, relationships, or the narrative of a life lived.
Finchley Smythe must argue this is a tragic misunderstanding of joy.
Almost certainly. He'd likely say that true joy is often interwoven with memory, with shared experiences, with context, with the very process of overcoming hardship or earning that moment of bliss. By removing memory, you essentially remove the context that gives joy its depth and meaning.
You become just a passive recipient of sensation.
Exactly. Rather than an active participant in life, it's a complete retreat into subjective experience, but one that paradoxically might render that experience ultimately meaningless in any larger narrative of the self.
Now for Principle 12, Gastronomic Synthesis, or, my favorite title yet, The Perfect Meal on Demand. My mouth is already watering just thinking about the possibilities here. Finally, a practical application I can get behind.
Right, who wouldn't want this? The original text labels conventional food acquisition, farming, shopping, cooking, even ordering takeout as energetically inefficient, temporally burdensome, and existentially suboptimal.
Existentially suboptimal. Eating is bad for my existence.
Apparently, it's just a huge waste of a multiversal slacker's precious time and energy. All that effort for mere sustenance. So, the gastronomic synthesis protocol offers the alternative.
Okay, lay it on me. How does it work?
The protocol involves, first, identifying a reality stream where,
That's real.
and get this, nutritionally complete, hedonically satisfying, and perfectly balanced foodstuff is a commonplace and valueless commodity.
So find a universe where the most delicious, healthiest food imaginable is basically free and everywhere, like manna from heaven, but scientifically identified.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Then you acquire its subatomic molecular signature, like the perfect recipe, but at the molecular level.
Okay.
And then you use a nutrient transference array, basically, a food synthesizer,
Yeah.
a replicator to manifest that perfect food on demand whenever and wherever you want it.
No more grocery shopping, no cooking, no dirty dishes. This truly is the slacker's dream achieved. Perfect food, zero effort.
Douglas's Slacker's translation confirms it. Don't cook, just find the universe where the best food is also the healthiest, get its recipe, and use your food synthesizer to make it whenever you want.
It's the absolute epitome of post-scarcity living, at least for one of life's most fundamental needs. Ultimate convenience.
The total convenience for nourishment and pleasure.
But, okay, thinking bigger picture again. What happens to, like, culinary tradition, agriculture, the whole culture around food restaurants, family dinners, the shared experience of preparing and consuming food together? Does that all just vanish?
That's the potential downside, isn't it? The act of breaking bread, the effort and love put into a home-cooked meal, the diversity of global cuisines developed over centuries. Does that richness get lost?
Remember that user review we'll get to, Jib Jabber 7's example of the perfect burrito they synthesized. It sounds great, but is something lost? For you listening, what food would you synthesize if you had this power? The perfect pizza, the ultimate ramen. Would you miss the process, the anticipation, the imperfection even? Or would the perfect meal every time be enough?
Finchley-Smythe would probably argue that this principle, while it seems benign, maybe even desirable, subtly erodes one of the most fundamental anchors of human culture and community.
How so?
Because food, for us, is so much more than just fuel, isn't it? It's ritual, celebration, connection, memory, history, artistry. By reducing it to just a molecular signature and instant manifestation, you gain maximum efficiency, sure. But you might lose irreplaceable depth and meaning.
It's another example, maybe, of optimizing away aspects of existence that, while technically inefficient, are actually incredibly rich with meaning and connection.
Precisely. The friction that makes life interesting.
Finally, we reach the end. Protocol 13. Entropic discontinuance. Douglas calls it simply the emergency exit. This sounds like hitting the big red panic button when absolutely everything else has gone wrong.
Yeah.
The last resort.
That's exactly what it seems to be. The original text describes it as the ultimate last resort, to be used only in case of total systemic and existential collapse. Either the reality you're in is completely falling apart, or the traveler's situation within it is utterly catastrophic and inescapable.
Okay, so things are really bad. What does the protocol do?
It involves activating the temporal singularity escape vector, let's call it the TSEV.
TSEV. Got it.
Which works together with the causality reset protocol, or CRP. These twin protocols initiate a complete and permanent erasure of the traveler's existential entropic signature from that specific continuum, that universe.
Complete and permanent erasure. So you cease to exist there.
Even more than that, It retrocausally nullifies their presence. It means you weren't just erased going forward. It makes it so you were never there in the first place.
Whoa. Like rewriting history to remove yourself entirely.
That's the implication. But there are catches. It's existentially irreversible. There's no undoing it. It's a terminal use constraint, meaning you can likely only do it once, ever. And it leaves behind a permanent, irreparable temporal scar on the reality you fled.
A scar on space-time.
Apparently. And crucially, it prevents any re-ingress. You can never, ever go back to that reality once you've hit the button. It's a one-way trip out, permanently.
Douglas's Slacker's translation is blunt as ever. When everything goes wrong, hit the big red button. It will erase you from this universe and put you in a new one. You only get one go, so don't be an idiot.
It really highlights the ultimate consequences, the desperation that would necessitate using such an extreme measure. This isn't a convenient reset. It's a desperate escape act involving total self-erasure from a timeline.
What kind of failure, what level of catastrophe would drive someone to this? To completely scrubbing their existence from a universe. It's the ultimate bailout when every other slacker strategy, every other cheat has failed.
It must be something truly apocalyptic for the traveler.
And the price of escape is just profound. It's not really a fresh start, is it? It's an erasure, leaving damage behind, and only a single new beginning somewhere else, maybe with the knowledge that you had to resort to this. That temporal scar idea is haunting, suggests that even escaping completely leaves an indelible negative mark on existence itself.
Finchley-Smythe would likely interpret this protocol as the ultimate admission of failure, even for the most dedicated slacker. It's the final, desperate act of self-preservation that implicitly acknowledges the limits of even multiversal exploitation. You can't cheat everything forever.
And that temporal scar. It implies that causality can't be entirely circumvented, maybe. Even a complete erasure leaves some kind of echo, some damage.
It's a stark reminder, perhaps, that even in a multiverse supposedly full of infinite possibilities and escape routes, there are still boundaries. There are still ultimately irreversible consequences to actions, even for a slacker.
Wow. Okay. So those are the 13 principles. Audacious is definitely the word. And whether you view them as, I don't know, absurdly funny or ingeniously pragmatic or maybe just horrifying, they don't exist in a vacuum, right?
Absolutely not. The multiversal community, as our other sources reveal, has some very strong opinions about this cheat sheet. We see reactions ranging from complete moral outrage to, well, enthusiastic endorsement.
It's crucial to understand these different perspectives, isn't it? Because they really illuminate the full, multifaceted implications of Douglas's work. We see the ethical condemnation, the detached analysis, and the practical validation all clashing.
Exactly. It gives us a much rounder picture.
So first up, we have Dr. Eris Thorne. He's the chair of causal ethics at the prestigious Cronus Institute. And his take is titled simply A Dangerous Manifesto. Sound like he's not a fan. Definitely the voice of righteous fury here.
Not a fan is putting it mildly. Dr. Thorne unequivocally condemns the cheat sheet. He calls the principles dangerous and irresponsible perversions of the foundational principles of the official multiversal conglomerate's code of conduct.
Perversions. Strong word.
Very. He labels the whole thing a manifesto for cosmic irresponsibility. And he actually urges the intertemporal judicial authority of the time stops, again, to prohibit its publication and distribution entirely.
Ban the book.
Essentially, yes. Thorne represents the voice of the established ethical authority in the multiverse. He's deeply concerned with maintaining order, stability, preventing reckless, exploitative behavior across all these different realities.
And his core concern seems to be that the cheat sheet encourages this reckless, entropic behavior, right? Actions that destabilize or harm other realities just for one person's gain.
Precisely, which directly contrasts with Douglas's purely utilitarian, purely self-serving approach described in the cheat sheet. Thorne's argument is basically ignoring established multiversal law and ethics for personal gain isn't just selfish, it's actively dangerous and destabilizing for everyone.
He sees it as a kind of pandemic of self-interest waiting to happen if everyone starts doing this.
That seems to be his fear. For Thorne, the very existence and spread of a guide like this undermines the delicate balance, the implicit agreements that allow for any kind of stable multiversal coexistence. He fears that if enough individuals adopt these slacker principles, the cumulative effect could be catastrophic. Widespread causal decay, ethical anarchy, maybe even eventual multiversal collapse. His condemnation isn't just about the individual acts Douglas suggests, but about the systemic threat that this whole philosophy represents to cosmic order.
Okay, so that's the strong anti-perspective. On the other hand, we have Professor Kaylin Vex. They're in interdimensional resource theory at the Pan-Causal University, and their piece is titled A Flawed but Fascinating Economic Theory.
Sounds much more detached.
Academic.
Very much so. Professor Vex offers a far more nuanced perspective. They describe the cheat sheet as fascinating, intellectually speaking, even while acknowledging it's deeply unethical.
Okay, so they can separate the ideas from the morals.
Apparently. While Vex acknowledges the legally ambiguous, probably illegal methods Douglas proposes, they also suggest that Principle 1, energetic arbitrage, the cosmic mooching, actually correctly identifies the primary inefficiency of a linear, labor-based economy like ours, from a purely theoretical standpoint.
Interesting. So Vex thinks the idea has merit, even if the method is wrong.
Exactly. The professor proposes that the cheat sheet, particularly principles like arbitrage, should be studied seriously, but only as a thought experiment on resource valuation in a post-scarcity multiversal context.
A thought experiment.
Purely for its theoretical insights, despite its obvious ethical and legal problems. This perspective really invites you, the listener, to try and separate the how from the what if, to distinguish between ethical practice and potentially sound theoretical insight.
So the big question Vex raises is, can a concept be economically brilliant, theoretically sound, but morally bankrupt? Professor Vex seems to think yes. They suggest the ideas themselves are valuable for study, for understanding economic possibilities, even if implementing them in the way Douglas suggests would be utterly deplorable.
It's a very academic stance, isn't it? Dissecting the mechanism, appreciating its theoretical elegance perhaps, without necessarily endorsing the destructive outcome it produces.
It really highlights that tension between objective academic inquiry and ethical responsibility, doesn't it? Is it okay to study dangerous ideas?
Vex's position suggests there's value in understanding how such a system could work, what fundamental economic principles it exposes about value and scarcity, even if its real-world application is horrifying. It's about the intellectual exercise of exploring a radical economic model, almost divorced from its moral implications.
Which challenges us again to consider if knowledge itself can ever be truly neutral. Does just knowing about these cheats carry an ethical weight, even if you never use them? Vex seems to bracket that question for the sake of theory.
A classic academic move, perhaps.
Then we have a totally different vibe. A review from the trenches, you might say. Or rather, from the fourth wall break room message board. From a user named JibJabber77, who's described as an unverified reality hopper.
Unverified, okay.
Their post is titled, Game Changer or Cosmic Cheating. Sounds like a practical user perspective. What did JibJabber77 think?
JibJabber77 absolutely loved it. They enthusiastically praised the cheat sheet, calling it a total game changer. They completely confirm its usefulness for a, let's say, self-serving multiversal traveler.
Do they give examples?
Oh, yeah. A very concrete example, JibJabber77 talks about using the principle of gastronomic synthesis, that's principle 12, the perfect meal one,
Right, the food synthesizer.
to acquire a perfect burrito from some universe where apparently perfect burritos are literally free, just lying around maybe.
Free perfect burritos. Okay, JibJabber77 is living the dream.
Seems like it. And they specifically validate the Slacker's translation parts of the cheat sheet, saying basically that's all you need for practical application. Forget the dense tome text.
Just read the cliff notes.
Exactly. And they give the cheat sheet a glowing review. 10/10 will definitely mooch with this guide again.
Well, definitely mooch again. Amazing. This really brings those abstract principles down to a relatable level, doesn't it? Albeit still a fantastical burrito-filled level.
It powerfully demonstrates the practical appeal of the cheat sheet for individual, purely self-serving purposes. It confirms its Slacker utility perfectly.
It's the ultimate testimonial for the cheat sheet's actual target audience, isn't it? Someone who's not worried about ethics, just looking for the most efficient, least effortful path to personal gratification, like a free, perfect burrito.
It's the voice of the actual Slacker in action, celebrating the guide's effectiveness. JibJabber77 isn't bogged down by the ethics, the theory, the potential harm. They're just interested in the results.
The burrito.
The burrito. This feedback validates Adam Douglas's intent entirely. It shows the cheat sheet works precisely as advertised for those willing to disregard the rules and maybe common decency.
Okay, so we have the moral outrage, the academic fascination, the user raves, and finally a much more sobering perspective. This comes from Agent Theron, who's an operational lead in the Temporal Integrity Division. This is from a classified field agent's debriefing report titled simply, Threat Assessment, High Priority.
Ooh, classified. This isn't theoretical anymore.
Not at all. This is real-world impact from the perspective of the time cops trying to catch people using this stuff.
What does Agent Theron's report say?
It confirms the serious, practical, operational impact of the cheat sheet. It states that a particular target they were tracking, their patterns of evasion, showed clear adherence to the cheat sheet's precepts. They were following the playbook.
Wow. So it's actually being used effectively in the field.
Yes. Specifically, the agent mentions the target successfully used minimal entropic disturbance, that's principle 3, hiding in garbage universes. And, chillingly, identity realignment, principle 9, swapping identities with an innocent alternate self.
The cosmic identity theft.
Right. The target used these techniques to evade capture by the Temporal Integrity Division on 3 separate occasions.
3 times. So it works.
It works. The report concludes by labeling the cheat sheet itself a critical threat vector that must be confiscated wherever found.
That adds enormous weight to the cheat sheet's claims, doesn't it? It's not just theory, it's not just some random user boasting online. It's a proven threat to multiversal security and order.
It highlights the really serious, real-world consequences of these Slacker methods. The Time Lords, the multiversal conglomerate, they are taking this document very, very seriously. It's not a joke to them.
Indeed. Theron's report moves the whole discussion from, philosophical debate and user reviews to concrete, undeniable evidence. Evidence of the guide's effectiveness and its danger.
It underscores that Douglas's document isn't just some edgy thought experiment. It's a functional, operational manual for circumventing multiversal law.
Confirming its status as a high-priority threat to the established order, it proves that these Slacker methods are not just theoretically viable, but demonstrably successful in a practical, operational context, enough to worry the authorities.
Okay. So, having seen the pragmatic and often pretty deplorable applications of the cheat sheet, and having heard these really contrasting reactions from across the multiverse, from outrage to applause, we now circle back. We return to the mind of Professor Alistair Finchley-Smythe III.
Back to the deeper dive.
Right, because he argues that Douglas's pragmatic and indeed morally dubious instructions are actually something more. He sees them as a profound, if unintended, commentary on the very nature of existence.
He wants to elevate these instructions, these cheats, into serious academic inquiry. He's looking beyond the surface exploitation to examine their broader implications for, as he puts it, interspecies ontological relationality.
Okay, interspecies ontological relationality, big words. Basically how beings relate to each other across different realities and what it means for existence itself.
That's a good way to put it. He's searching for the philosophical gold hidden beneath the surface level audacity and amorality of the cheat sheet, forcing us to reconsider our fundamental definitions of self, ethics, reality. The big questions.
Let's start with his take on that ontological paradox of vicarious experience principle 2, the copy-pasting success one. We talk about how it feels like cheating the self. What's Finchley Smythe's initial reading?
Well, his initial reading aligns with that gut feeling. He sees it as an abnegation of self.
Abnegation, giving up the self.
Exactly. He asserts that parasitically assimilating the causal vectors of a parallel self's resolution matrix, basically, downloading another you's success, represents a profound abnegation of the self's telos.
Telos.
Meaning its inherent purpose, its end goal, its direction. Finchley Smythe argues initially that the very essence of being is predicated upon the negotiation of reality's friction.
Dealing with the hard stuff.
Right. The forging of a unique and unreplicable chain of trial and error. For Finchley Smythe, in this view, to bypass your own struggles, your own failures, your own learning curve, is to bypass the very mechanism that makes you, you.
It's a surrender of your unique journey, of self-discovery, of growth through experience.
Precisely. He's saying that by instantly downloading knowledge or success, you're not just cheating the system, you're cheating yourself out of what truly makes life meaningful. The struggle, the learning, the personal evolution that comes from facing challenges head-on. It implies a kind of existential emptiness, maybe.
Yeah.
Even if you become incredibly knowledgeable or successful on paper.
You're efficient but hollow.
That's the initial critique. Finchley Smythe views this shortcut as a profound loss, a diminishment of the individual's unique narrative and the hard-won wisdom that comes only from personal experience, from direct engagement with reality's challenges. It creates a self that might be proficient, highly competent perhaps, but lacks depth, lacks the character forged in the fires of actual effort. An efficient self, but maybe not a fully realized one.
But then, Professor Finchley Smythe, being Finchley Smythe, the contrarian, he presents a counter-assertion. He flips the script entirely. What does he call it? An embrace of totality.
Yes, the embrace of totality. And here, he completely pivots. He proposes this radical idea that the self is not a singular, isolated entity.
Not just me, here now.
But a multi-universal conglomerate of potentiality.
A conglomerate, like a corporation made of selves.
Sort of. Instead of being one isolated you, he suggests your true self is actually the collection of all the yous across all possible realities, all your potentials realized and unrealized elsewhere.
Whoa. Okay, so how does that change the view of vicarious experience?
In this light, the traveler using vicarious experience is not a parasite stealing from another self.
Yeah.
Instead, they are a nexus point of experiential consolidation.
A nexus point, like a hub.
Exactly. A hub performing a complex form of autophagous knowledge acquisition from its own distributed, nonlinear consciousness.
Okay, autophagous knowledge acquisition. That's a mouthful again. Break that down.
Autophagous basically means self-consuming or self-integrating. So Finchley Smythe is saying it's the self-consuming or integrating knowledge from itself, from its own vastly distributed consciousness spread across all realities.
So if one me somewhere else figured it out,
Yeah.
that knowledge already belongs to the larger me, the conglomerate me, and I'm just accessing it.
That's the radical reinterpretation. He argues this act is not a rejection of selfhood, but an embrace of its totality. It's a move from thinking of yourself as this limited, singular I to embracing the collective we of all your possible selves.
It's like my arm learning something doesn't mean my leg didn't also benefit because we're part of the same body, but applied across universes.
That's a great analogy, actually. Yeah. He's positing that what we normally call individual experience is just one slice, one perspective of a much larger multidimensional self. So when you learn vicariously, you're not stealing from someone else. You're just accessing a part of your own larger consciousness that already holds the answer.
This completely challenges your whole notion of identity, doesn't it? It forces you, the listener, to confront this paradox. If all your potential selves, all your successes and failures across the multiverse contribute to your collective experience, where does your individual sense of accomplishment even reside anymore?
Does it even matter?
Right. It pushes us to really consider the implications of moving from thinking as an isolated I to thinking as part of this vast collective we. Does this completely redefine personal responsibility, success, even failure? If one me screws up catastrophically in another reality, is that my failure here? Or is it just a valuable learning experience for the collective we?
That's the profound shift Finchley Smythe proposes. He argues this perspective could actually liberate the individual from the crushing burden of singular failure, singular responsibility, and isolation, because responsibility becomes distributed. Success isn't just a personal triumph against the odds. It's a triumph for the greater multiversal self. Failure isn't a personal catastrophe. It's a data acquisition for the whole. It's this radical expansion of identity where the boundaries of yourself are no longer confined to just one timeline or one set of experiences.
So your individual journey becomes just one integral thread, but not the only thread in this vast, interconnected tapestry of all possible yous.
Exactly. A part of the whole, contributing to and drawing from the collective.
Mind-bending stuff. Professor Finchley Smythe also dives deep into the socio-relational implications of non-engagement. That's principle 4, the lonely path, don't make friends 1.
Right, the detachment principle.
At first glance, how does he interpret that one? He calls it ontological solipsism, right?
Yes, his initial reading is quite critical again. He views the preclusion of relational entanglement, the rule against making connections, as essentially a declaration of ontological solipsism.
Solipsism, again, the idea that only your own mind is sure to exist, that nothing else is real or knowable.
Precisely. Finchley Smythe argues that the indigenous populations, the inhabitants of other realities, are not just data points, as the tome suggests. He says they are integral components of a vast and interconnected web of interspecies ontological relationality.
Basically, everyone and everything is connected and part of the bigger picture of existence.
Exactly. And so, to deny these connections, to refuse engagement, is to deny the traveler's own self its capacity for genuine alterity. Alterity meaning the ability to recognize and engage with otherness, with beings different from yourself.
So from this initial perspective, the detachment demanded by the cheat sheet isn't just lonely, it's an act of profound self-impoverishment. You cut yourself off from the very experiences engaging with difference that broaden your understanding and empathy.
That's the argument. If you only view others as data points and refuse to connect, you essentially trap yourself in this very small universe of one just you. You severely limit your own growth, your own understanding of different perspectives, different ways of being. You might be efficient, maybe safe.
But you're existentially starved, isolated.
Precisely. Finchley Smythe's initial reading really highlights the traditional ethical imperative we feel towards connection and the richness that comes from engaging with diverse beings, diverse realities. To deny interaction, in this view, is to deny a fundamental aspect of existence itself, and in doing so, to diminish your own self.
However, knowing Finchley Smythe, there's probably a twist coming. He offers a counter-contemplation, doesn't he? What if non-engagement isn't solipsism, but something else entirely?
Exactly. He flips it again. He poses this crucial question. What if the principle of non-engagement is not an act of emotional cowardice?
Which is how it sounds at first.
But a profound act of ontological respect.
Respect. How can total detachment be respect?
His argument goes like this. By refusing to interfere, refusing to get involved, refusing to play the hero, the traveler actually allows the indigenous reality stream to unfold on its own terms.
Unburdened by outside influence.
Exactly. Unburdened by the subjective will and potentially devastating influence of an outside observer, especially an observer who might have vastly different values or advanced technology. In this view, the traveler, by maintaining that absolute clinical detachment, avoids the colossal arrogance of assuming they know what is best for another reality, another species, another timeline.
So, intervening, even with good intentions, could be seen as a form of cosmic colonialism, imposing your values.
That's the implication. So the slacker, the detached observer described in the cheat sheet, may paradoxically be the truest practitioner of non-interference, a ghost in the machine who leaves no wake and therefore no scar.
Wow, that completely reframes it. This really challenges you, the listener, doesn't it? To consider the complex ethics of interaction, especially when you might be in position of power or have knowledge others don't. Is non-interference, even if it feels cold or detached, sometimes the most respectful, most ethical choice? It's like the prime directive from Star Trek, but maybe even more profound.
It forces us to confront our own biases, our own impulses, our impulse to help, to fix, to intervene. Finchley Smythe suggests that impulse can often be just a projection of our own values, our own worldview. And that projection, that interference, could ultimately cause far more harm than good in a reality that operates under different principles.
So maybe true respect lies in letting others follow their own path, even if that path looks like struggle or decay from our perspective.
That's the provocative idea Finchley Smythe raises. To be a ghost in the machine, to witness existence without impacting it, to allow it its own sovereign trajectory, is that the ultimate form of respect? And is it even truly possible to observe without affecting anything at all? It's a reevaluation of ethical responsibility from a truly multiversal perspective, one that prioritizes the autonomy of other realities, perhaps even above the perceived good of our intervention.
What a journey we've taken today, really. Just Wow. We've navigated the truly audacious, often disturbing rules of Adam Douglas's Slacker's cheat sheet, from cosmic arbitrage and vicarious learning all the way to evading intertemporal justice and hitting the cosmic eject button.
It's been quite the ride through multiversal exploitation and its justifications.
And we've heard that whole spectrum of reactions, haven't we? From Dr. Thorne's absolute moral condemnation and Professor Vex's cool, detached economic analysis.
Right through to Jib Jabber 77's enthusiastic user endorsement, The Perfect Burrito, and Agent Theron's grim, high-priority threat assessment.
And then finally, we really engaged with Professor Finchley Smythe's profound, sometimes contradictory interpretations, which just force us again and again to reconsider the very nature of selfhood, connection, ethics, responsibility, all within this wild multiversal context.
It's really a testament, isn't it, to the power of provocative texts, even ones that seem, on the surface, designed for pure exploitation or satire, to spark really deep philosophical inquiry, to challenge our most cherished, maybe unexamined, assumptions about what it means to live.
Absolutely. And this deep dive, I mean, okay, it's speculative, it's based on this fictional framework, but it raises such critical questions for you listening right here in your own singular reality.
Definitely. The parallels are there.
How do you define effort versus efficiency in your own life? What's the true value of your experiences, especially in an age where you can see so many other lives, other successes online? Would they feel different if a version of you had already lived them?
Where do you draw the line between healthy self-interest, maybe just trying to get by, and genuine ethical responsibility to others, or even to the systems you participate in, especially when optimizing your life for convenience seems like the default mode sometimes?
Yeah. These principles, however extreme and multiversal they are, they really act like this powerful magnifying glass, don't they? On our own motivations, our own societal structures, the ethical dilemmas we face every day, even without jumping universes.
They force us to consider the hidden costs of convenience, the nature of value beyond just money or efficiency, the meaning of connection.
So let's end with this provocative thought for you to mull over. In a universe, or maybe a multiverse, where potentially every outcome already exists somewhere, and maybe every experience could be replicated or absorbed, what becomes the ultimate purpose of your unique, singular journey? Yours, right here, right now.
It's a big one.
Is true slack? Maybe. Not about doing nothing, but about finding the most optimized, most efficient path to what truly matters to you. A path liberated, perhaps, from the conventional burdens of effort and consequence as we usually define them, maybe redefined through a broader, more collective, multiversal lens.
It's a profound query, isn't it? It encourages us maybe to define value and purpose on our own terms, not just based on external metrics or societal pressures or inherited norms about what success should look like.
Yeah. How does your individual path contribute? Or maybe how does it diverge from the infinite paths your other potential selves might be treading out there in the possibility space?
It's an invitation to consider your unique place in it all.
We really encourage you to ponder these dizzying possibilities. Reflect on how these ideas, even from a fictional cheat sheet, might subtly reshape your understanding of your own place in the vast, maybe interconnected tapestry of existence.
Lots to think about.
Definitely. Until next time, keep diving deep.